Welcome back to another week of Quarantine with a K. As promised, I've got a new guest and a new setup for y'all,
That's right.
and you can go ahead and hear her, so I'll just go ahead and switch screens. Welcome, Charlotte.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Wait, we're frozen.
Great. Welcome.
So work in progress, but thankfully I have subjects here to experiment this on.
Yes, ma'am. I'm a guinea pig.
This was literally working until I switched the display onto you.
Oh
But
god, I got frozen in like the worst possible
you're just looking
way.
down at your phone. It's loading, but we're coming back. In any case, you can hear her. But Charlotte's here in the makeshift studio of the kitchen. I'm just gonna restart the camera because that's not gonna work. But in any case, we're here. Charlotte, do you want to go ahead and start telling us what you've been up to since your last appearance?
Yeah, sure. We're just gonna ignore my ugly looking frozen face there. Anyway.
Okay, I'm just gonna take
Yikes, I haven't been on since like what? September, November?
Yeah, you were last on
October.
in
No,
fall
October.
semester,
Yeah.
season 2. You didn't make it to season 3.
Yeah, I had a very busy spring semester. So, spring semester obviously got cut in half by freaking coronavirus. But, I don't know, I did a lot actually. I got really involved at school and like all the clubs that I'm in, because I'm in Freedom and Eastern, Public Relations Officer. We did a whole lot this year, and we've still done some stuff over the summer. And I participated in plays. I was the soundboard operator for The Brother Size at Eastern. Awesome show directed by Dr. Deron Williams himself. It was a lot of work, but it was actually super fun. A lot went into it, but I got to basically just hit the space bar, like, whenever I heard my cue, you know.
I mean, that's a real task.
It's a job,
Someone
yeah.
has
It's
to
a
do
whole
it.
career. But our awesome soundboard designer, or soundboard designer, sound designer, he created everything, and I just hit play at the right moments, made sure the volume levels were good, and I'm not gonna lie, it's actually more stressful than you think, but it was
Someone's
really
got to
fun.
do it.
Yeah. Shout out to our awesome stage manager too, Michaela. Ugh, amazing.
So where does this put you in your journey towards your ultimate goal of being a theater star?
Oh there. That's a big loaded question. I don't know, cause ultimately I said this like the past 3 times I've been a guest, but ultimately I want to be an actress. But as I've gotten to go to a liberal arts school, we've had to take classes in all of theater, like everything backstage, and I haven't done any costume ones yet. I don't know if I will, but all the technical aspects of it. Like I even freaking built a stool and a stage and a set. I don't know, it was crazy.
So you've gotten to do literally everything.
Yeah, so I've gotten to like try different things and work my way around the theater, but I don't know. I still feel like the thing I love the most is obviously acting. But sound was interestingly fun. Like surprisingly fun. Like I did it just because I needed the practicum, I was like, oh shoot, I should probably start working on these practicum that I need to graduate. Hey, Duran, what do you need? Do you need a person for anything? And I'm friends with Michaela, who was a stage manager, and she was like, actually, we need a soundboard operator. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And I just kind of like hopped in it, like, very spontaneously. But it was fun. I actually liked it, and I could see myself doing it again. For sure. Or even, well, I don't know, projections looked really, like, way more complicated. I don't know if it is, I haven't tried it, but I could also be willing to try that.
Frozen.
Oh, why am I frozen like that?
It keeps, anytime that, like, you move, it freezes again. At least that's what it looks like on the preview here. But that's unfortunate because it was, like I said, it was literally working until I switched it to the live stream.
Weird.
Live screen, I mean.
It's just my energy. It's too much. Let me stop. Let me not be that person.
Yeah, I saw that, amen. I don't know what's going on. Like, I know that it's not an internet issue because if it was, then the stream wouldn't be running either.
It's probably just a connection.
What connection?
Like the phone to the laptop.
On the phone, it's fine. It's just the laptop that's not receiving the signal.
How dare it not receive my signal?
I know.
The audacity. It just hates me. That's what it is.
Like, it was working before. Like, I swear it was working before. I'm gonna blame it on the ads, honestly.
There's ads?
There's like a little banner ad. Which, you know.
Honestly,
We've all
probably, yeah.
We've all discussed my quarrel with all things ads.
What if I
hate
just
them.
go sit next to you?
I mean, that's gonna end up being what has to happen. Because all of this here is set up as I had it for like testing it, and I've been trying to get it to like stream.
We
on
should have
the
done a test
best-
stream earlier to see what it
Well,
was
that's what I was doing before.
Oh, wow.
That's why I asked you to sit here so that I could make sure it was working. And before it was the sound that wasn't going through, but I was like, okay, it doesn't matter. I'll just come through the same microphone because you're standing right
I
here.
talk loud enough.
Yeah. But now,
Hmm.
like, I'm gonna let the stream catch up so that you guys can see what I'm seeing because this is the worst.
I just see a
I
black
should have just
screen.
left it on the frozen screen from before so you could just see like a picture of Charlotte as I talked.
I swear.
No, keep watching. I don't
Wait,
know
don't
how.
tell me it froze in a
It's
weird
terrible.
way.
I don't know how.
No.
Look at that. What is that?
Oh, it's like burnt. It's like when you do the overlay effect on Photoshop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might just have to come sit over here.
No.
Because see,
Cuties.
on this, it's running perfect. I mean, how am I supposed to show you? Well, I guess I can show you like this. Yeah, you can come sit over here. Meanwhile, I'm gonna do this nonsense. Cause like, this is running. Like she's on the camera. That's supposed to be streaming to the setup I have here. However, it is no longer doing that for some reason. But alas, that is a problem to be fixed later.
It was a good attempt.
So once again, welcome back to Quarantine with a K. Here's Charlotte. Wait. Here's Charlotte.
Yeah.
I'm upset. This is like, it's
I'm
working.
upset.
It's like,
No, continue this one. I'm just
50,000 on my head. That's disrespect. Oh my god.
That was uncomfortable to sit on.
Well, basically, look. Camera's running. You can see me. But I don't know why my computer won't receive the signal and stream it. But anyway, like you were saying.
Hey, you can you can see my graduation pictures in the background.
This looks like a vlog now.
It's like a shrine of me.
Hi Arturo. Would you happen
up,
to know why
Arturo?
this stream isn't going
Oh
through?
yes, we got a computer tech in the building.
He's a computer science major and I'm asking him how to do production. Anyway, like you were saying.
Oh, there's a shrine.
No, about your theater career.
Oh right, I totally lost my train of thought.
You were saying that you got to run sound and you've gotten experience doing a lot of other things. So
She said just draw a line in the camera between. You know what? You're right. We can just.
wow, totally different rooms.
We're in separate
Amazing.
locations right now.
Bro, I'm mad. I brought out my whole like monopod and everything. But so this puts you like how close to being able to get your theater degree? Because
Okay.
you guys have to fill a
I'm
quota, right?
basically yeah. So I'm one class away from the theater degree itself, because early college. People who know me already know this. I don't feel like telling that whole story. But
Have you guys heard about early college? I feel like we're walking ad.
I
Like,
know.
the
Graduating
Twitch
high school, my
crime.
associate's degree had like all of my LACs taken care of except the 2 mandatory ones that they make you take at Eastern. Anyway,
That.
so this is gonna be my 3rd year at Eastern because I took a gap year, but it's gonna be my 3rd year, and I'm basically done kind of with the theater degree. I have one more class that's theater specific, and then the rest of it's practicum. So what practicum is you have to be on stage a certain amount of times and work behind the stage a certain amount of times and
Even
do
if you
stuff
just
around the
wanted to
theater.
act.
Yeah, because liberal arts education. It has to be well-rounded.
But also, I feel like that's more important when it comes to actual arts careers because you do have to understand how people do their work.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
because you work together.
it's also set up like with core classes because you technically don't choose your concentration until later, but I got to like choose it way sooner. But it's set up so that people can figure out what aspect they truly like. So like me, like I ended up really liking sound when I did soundboard for Brother Size. So I could see myself doing it again. And if I got offered a job doing it, I'd be like, hey, sure, man, I can see myself doing that for a few years. Like, why not? Even though my main goal and focus is acting, but I feel like that's a good part of the degree that it gives you like that well-rounded things. Also, I can use a chop saw. I can use a freaking drill press. Like I made a whole stool. It's in Connecticut.
Charlotte goes to school to become an actor and ends up woodworking.
Yeah, because there's technical theater was like the whole class for like tech stuff, and it was just a wood shop. Most of it was just a wood shop, and then we built the set.
At some point, they changed one of my classes from their location, and so I walked into one of the tech classes, and I was like, I'm not supposed to be doing woodworking, I'm supposed to be coding a video game.
Oh, and you did painting for one of the sets.
Oh yeah, I painted for Cabaret. Not for class or anything, just because I felt like it.
And that's the one I built. Like, oh my god, I remember we sat there, the big Cabaret sign, we screwed every single light bulb in there by hand. I swear I got carpal tunnel from that.
Why over there?
I don't want to be close to you. Oh.
I just realized this is like totally skewed towards me and we don't even get to see your other shoulder. You don't have to lean towards me, it's not moving this. Anyway, okay, that's enough technical difficulties. I have enough of this in the studio without having to worry about it.
It's so weird not having a microphone in my face. This is like the first time that I'm not.
I know.
It's gonna be the first time you don't interrupt me to say into the mic. Into the mic.
So I've been editing. Well, I'm done editing the show actually. All of it's officially on YouTube. Now I'm just trying to get it to be on, well, basically like the podcast sites, so like Spotify, Apple, etc. Nice. Hi Mo! Happy birthday! Happy birthday, Mo! It's Monica's birthday in the chat for I guess 42 more minutes. But
she turned what?
She's 20. My children are all growing up. What was I saying? Theater. And do you know how many times I had to cut out myself saying into the mic?
So many. Like I would be in the middle of a sentence and you'd be like into the mic.
Because I couldn't hear you at all. And this was your first episode. You guys didn't have headphones yet.
No.
You guys couldn't monitor the audio.
I could not hear myself. I would like, because there are spinny chairs, which is the first thing they tell you not to do in an interview, but there are spinny chairs there, so I'd be going like this and talking, and you would be like into the mic, and I'd be like, oh.
Well, the spinny chairs in the studio are so that people can like swivel towards the mic and then not have to be sitting here all the time. Yeah. I wonder how that's going to work when we're back on campus for the virus. But
you're probably going to like have a slot and not be able to be in there while somebody else is in there.
That's how the shows work already.
Well, like...
But I feel like they're going to have to be spaced out to be clean. But anyway, speaking of theater and theater-related things, Charlotte, what's new in the theater industry? Okay, what should we have our eyes on?
In case y'all weren't aware, in just a few days...
Good job.
Sorry. In just a few days, Hamilton is going to be coming out on Disney+, July 3rd, at midnight Pacific Standard Time, which is going to be 3 a.m. Eastern Time, so I'm obviously going to stay up to watch it at 3 a.m. But it's like all of Hamilton, the way it was with the original Broadway cast on stage and everything, and it's going to be on Disney+, and I'm super pumped for it because obviously I love Hamilton. What theater? Well, there's some that don't. But it's like the main musical that got me back into musicals, like my junior year of high school.
Have you not always been into musicals?
I was super into like theater and everything in middle school, but then early college happened, and early college is like super STEM based. Everything is STEM.
You were not. You wanted to be a vet or an entomologist.
Yeah, for the longest time I wanted to do entomology or veterinary science, or I even like thought about zoology for the longest time because I love pandas and I wanted to maybe work with them. But the junior year of high school, well, it was kind of like it was the summer before junior year. Yeah. Anyway, I find Hamilton. I don't even know how I found it. It was like from a post or something. Who knows? Social media, probably.
No, it was probably whenever he was at the White House.
Oh, but that was way before. That was when I was like into theater, and I completely forgot about that because Lin-Manuel Miranda sang like
I remember that
a song from it.
I remember that being my introduction to it because he mentioned epic rap battles of history, and I was like, oh snap, that sounds dumb.
I remember you're obsessed with the freaking presidential epic rap battles
of history.
But yeah, that was in like 2008. But then I just didn't think about it. Like I was like, oh, that's cool. Anyway, moving on with my life. But then so I found it, or we found it, I guess. Junior year, right before, and I was like, this is the best musical I've ever heard in my entire life. And I was like, dang, maybe I do still want to pursue this as a career. Like, this is freaking awesome. And that's what like geared me back towards like from STEM, like peace out STEM, don't care. Back into Arturo in the chat. I just realized he's in here.
So is Monica.
Oh yeah, no.
And whoever else is watching.
Anyway.
Charlotte says she don't care about the pandas no more. You can eat them if you want.
Okay, I didn't say all that. First of all, I'm the biggest panda advocate. But, eat the pit. Anyway.
Say that.
That's just, no, because you're gonna clip it and you're gonna use it.
This is actually a lesson.
This is what conversations with us look like. Anyway, as I was saying.
Context matters. Remember that. You take anything away from this show, remember context matters. You were talking about you refound it, and that's when you decided that you didn't care about pandas anymore.
No, I didn't care about STEM anymore.
Retrieval cues. That was a psychology
This
trick.
Is how rumors. No, that's how rumors get started. Anyway, so Hamilton. Yeah, it's coming out soon, and I'm excited.
But you said it's gonna be on what? On Disney Plus?
On Disney Plus. Okay.
So let's discuss how it came to be on Disney Plus, because I didn't even know this, and I feel like I keep track of. We've actually talked about streaming services before. It was Charlotte's last episode where we talked about whether or not it was fair to artists, because they don't have a say on what network ends up keeping their work.
Yes. So, okay, let me spill some tea in case y'all don't know. In case y'all didn't keep up with this like I did, because I'm an obsessive fan, whatever. It was originally sold specifically to the Harvey Weinstein Company.
Dun dun dun.
Yikes. So, I feel like I'm in a whole, like, exposing show. That's so weird. Anyway. It was,
this
so
is
it was...
BuzzFeed Unsolved. It's just me and Charlotte talking about...
Hamilton. And how it got to be.
I was going to say about streaming service, too.
Okay, well, yeah. So, yeah, it was sold to the Harvey Weinstein Company, and then, obviously, the whole thing came out exposing him and how he was, like, literally the worst. And so, Lin-Manuel Miranda was like, whoa, I don't want him owning my musical anymore, like, ew. And so, he had to buy back the rights, because the company did not give him back the rights. He bought back the rights. And then he opened it up to a bidding war. So there was a huge bidding war with so many of the companies. Like NBC wanted it, Netflix wanted it, Hulu wanted it, obviously Disney wanted it, CBS wanted it, ABC wanted it. Like everybody wanted Hamilton because they knew it was gonna bring in a lot of attention and everything because it's such a big like phenomenon. But yeah, so there was a big bidding war and Disney won. Not surprised because Disney has $1 million trillion.
I thought it was going to be Warner Brothers that took it.
You know, that's what was rumored a lot, that it was going to be on Warner Brothers, but it ended up being on Disney Plus. I don't know if they had something to do with it.
Disney Plus going to handle it because it's a historical thing, and Disney does historical things, but they're usually more like on the happy side of things, and this one ends in a murder.
Well, yeah.
Well, I guess Disney's not scared of killing people.
They're not.
But what about censorship? Because I feel like that's going to be huge.
I'm actually kind of upset about it because since it's going to be on Disney, they're going to hugely censor it. Well, not hugely, I guess, but they're kind of censoring it because in the show they say the F word 3 times. And
3 times.
3 whole times.
Oh my God! How have they been allowed to continue forward on
and kids see it on Broadway?
This is supposed to be a family-friendly show.
Who cares? The kids are gonna hear it anyway. They're gonna hear it from the kids. Anyway,
don't say anything to me then about saying things about children.
You're literally like the yeet meme with the kid. You know what I'm talking about? Where she's like.
I can't do that though. Kids like me.
I don't know why.
I'm a
But
cool kid. That was funny.
anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so the F word is said 3 times in the show, and he said you better be taken down. It's said 3 times. Jesus, mind focus. And Disney was like, oh, we can't do that because for it to remain like a PG-13 type of rating, you can only say the F word once. And then I think there's like a certain limit on the other ones, but I think the other ones met the
So
requirements.
the other words, the only thing you can get away with saying, and I know this because I have to manage this for the radio station at school. Otherwise, it's a $250,000 fine if somebody calls it into the FCC.
Ooh, I remember when I played a song when I was your guest the first time.
Yeah.
I played a song that had the F word, and you were like, "Why did you choose that song?"
Yeah, I had to
And I was
censor it like while
"Jeez."
music was playing because we have things usually air on delay. I've mentioned this before. And so I managed to catch all of them because like I've always got an ear up, but I was just so shook because I was like, Charlotte.
I like when you're like,
But you can only say like words that have, I guess, innocuous meanings.
yeah.
So like you can say the A word, you can say the B word, you can say like hell. You can't say anything that's like specifically a curse word only, like at all. Which is something that I remember was a point or a topic of discussion with Marvel movies being taken by Disney.
Oh, yeah.
But
they don't shy away from that at all.
I feel like every Hamilton song has like an array of curse words.
So are they going to able to censor the whole thing? No. So they're only going to be censoring. So they're allowed one F word and there's 3. So literally the only words they're censoring is 2 of those. That's it.
They're not censoring anything else in it?
Not that I've seen, because I've been keeping up with... Or do you think
it's just not like...
It's probably just not major enough, yeah, because I've been keeping up with Lin-Manuel Miranda's Twitter, and he's tweeted, like, every change that they're going to make, and it's just, like, very slight things, and the only, like, specific censorship changes have been those 2 F words, and he said specifically which ones. So if y'all are interested, y'all can go look at his Twitter.
I wonder if it's just going to be trimmed then instead of edited out. Well, that way he didn't have to announce
it. He specified. Oh, for the other ones?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't know. Because for the F words, one of them it's going to mute, which is Hercules Mulligan's part. And if you know what part that is, I'm really mad about it because it's
the only person that knows.
It's such like a powerful moment, but it's going to be muted over that because
Hercules Mulligan.
Yeah. I'm so mad about that one. And then the other one is like the Southern Republicans. And there's going to be a record scratch there instead of that word. Fit. So I was like, okay, that one was actually going to sound cool because it's going to be like Southern Mother. I really record scratch,
do hope that they leave it as close to the original play as possible because I don't remember what he was on. It might have been when he was with Jimmy or the thing you guys were watching the other day. But Hamilton has had way larger implications than just being a really cool rap about history.
Oh, yeah. It can be
it's not an epic rap battles of history. It already is.
Yeah.
Because the play itself is exploring the history of Hamilton, right? And all... Monica said, "Sweet and Soft is unmatched." How dare you? I will literally bring a ghost to your house for your birthday. That's your birthday gift. Happy birthday.
Didn't she live in freaking Burr?
No, she didn't. Contact. She lived in
Winthrop. Dang it. She visited them.
But it's historical, and it's about a historical moment. And unfortunately, it appears that history repeats itself. But I feel like Disney leaving it alone as much as possible will continue to help it get its message across because as you guys heard with the song that was playing at the beginning, and Eamon mentioned Riz Ahmed, which is what reminded me of this because the man is also really good with like political inclusions. But Lin-Manuel Miranda was talking about how songs from Hamilton have been taken and you'll go by protest or speeches or rallies and you'll hear them playing the songs because somehow the lyrics are still relevant.
Like Hamilton lyrics on there. So cool.
Because obviously all of these historical figures had their own flaws and downfalls, right?
And the thing I love about Hamilton is that it's all called out, you know? Like he calls out the people who had slaves. Like when he's having the cabinet rap battle with Thomas Jefferson, a lot of people don't even know that Thomas Jefferson had slaves and he mistreated them like crazy, and he literally calls it out in the musical. He's like, a civics lesson from a slaver, hey neighbor. So it's like,
Yeah.
it has a lot of history that's not taught in schools, which I think is what made it really popular amongst the minority communities.
And it's interesting that you would say that, because I remember my first comment after, of course, making fun of it for being basically epic rap battles of history, the musical. I mentioned that I really do wish more things in school were taught through different, I guess, forms of entertainment, because, for example, Hamilton is super, super interesting. I was in 6th grade whenever the campaign was going on between
You can go however you like.
Obama and McCain, and there was a song that was made by these kids, and it was "You Can Vote However You Like," and so these kids rewrote a song that was super popular, which was "You Can Have Whatever You Like," and it was basically about Obama and McCain's campaign against each other, and so I remember watching that.
You started saying we could pop bottles all night. It was like, we can talk politics all night.
You can vote however
You can
like.
vote however you like.
So I remember really liking
Love
that,
it.
and that was my introduction and my spark of interest into politics. And so for Hamilton to have done that, I thought was really cool, because I would never have cared enough about the founding fathers to research their history. I just
How
knew.
do people still think Hamilton was a president?
Do they really?
Yeah.
That's
So many
funny.
people still think he was a president. He was a Secretary of Treasury, in case you didn't know. I only know this because of Hamilton.
I didn't even know. I just knew he was involved in history. But see, these are things that a lot of people never would have been exposed to otherwise. Not because it's not taught in schools or because it's not interesting, just because it's not like the main, I guess, point of our history.
Yeah.
And
It's like brushed over a lot of times.
and me included, there's a lot of people that think history is boring because history is history. It already happened. Learn what you need to and move on, right? But there are still a lot of really interesting stories and things to learn from it,
It's important.
especially in times like these. I refuse to say the word polarizing ever again, but polarizing times such as these, when people don't know, right? Like, you don't know the structure of things, and we all want to think, oh man, we're the first people to care about anything ever. Obviously, that's why things are so bad right now. People have been caring about issues for generations. Have they always been right on the side that won? Maybe not, but people care to a certain extent, and they take action. And so for us to ignore history is, I think, what leads a lot of us to act like, oh, I'm the first person to care. You don't know what I'm going through. Like, bro, it's literally been happening since humans were created, since like the first conscious thought was formed. Arturo
She
said,
did.
didn't he die on a duel?
Yeah. He did die in a duel, yeah. So, him and his good old buddy, old pal, Aaron Burr, they, like, never got along. And because they were always, like, not competing per se, but they both wanted a good legacy and everything. And Alexander Hamilton was, let's face it, very full of himself and was like, yeah, I'm the best.
I like how Charlotte says it's like that's tea. Like, we all knew, we've been talking about Hamilton, and nobody knows this about him except for, like I said,
If
you
you
and
watch
Monica.
it, okay, Arturo, I'm gonna need you to watch Hamilton when it comes out on July 3rd on Disney Plus. Midnight PST, but 3 a.m. Eastern time. I'm like, they should pay me to do
He
this.
said
I'm
he
like,
wrote- Arturo says he wrote a book about that.
yeah, well, it's history.
Wasn't the Hamilton based on a book?
Well, yeah. So Lin-Manuel Miranda was like on vacation doing some light reading, he says. And well, I guess it's light reading for people who read. But he read a biography on Alexander Hamilton and was like, yo, like, this is a very hip-hop man. Like, that's his words exactly. He was like, I can see his life in hip-hop. Like, it's a hip-hop story. And so he made, like, a whole hip-hop musical on it. And it's great. Like, the lyricism, okay? Don't even get me started on Lin-Manuel Miranda's lyricism. It's unmatched. It's the greatest I've ever heard in my life. The internal rhyme schemes, the alliteration, it's amazing. So that's why I'm like, everyone needs to freaking see it. And you're gonna learn a lot from it too. Like, it's not just like watching for
And I
fun.
think you can learn a lot not only about Hamilton, but about how situations often play out. And
Yeah.
especially ones, like you said, he died in a duel. It was all about a power play where people think they're matched, people don't. Someone thinks they can call the other's
Yeah.
bluff, and other people don't think that the
Because
other
back
side
then
will
it
go
was like,
through it.
I disagree with you. Meet me in the street. guns drawn, we hawk and dawn, and we're gonna shoot it out. They would literally like stand like this far away from each other, this far away from each other, if there were little people, like right here, and just point their guns at each other and be like, on a count of 10, we're gonna shoot, and whoever dies first dies, and if they both die, then they both die, and they would literally just.
But the moral of the story of Hamilton is that that's
Don't do
not
that.
the way to resolve issues, because
Yeah.
one shoots and the other one doesn't because he doesn't think his friend is going to shoot. But his friend was like, nah, I'm cold-blooded.
Yeah, because Hamilton was like, Aaron Burr, he don't got it in him. He's not gonna shoot. So he and his son.
I'm laughing at
his,
Arturo's comment.
What did you say? No, sir. Although I'm not totally against that, but
The podcast does not condone. I don't know what we condone or don't anymore. We had a lot of guests on here.
Anyway,
Be a good person
Yeah.
is the moral of my podcast.
basically, don't do that because Alexander Hamilton's son died the exact same way before he did. Literally.
He died in a duel too?
Yeah.
I thought he just.
That's in the musical. Listen to the freaking musical.
I
right
did.
now.
I watched it. I just thought he kind of just died.
No, Carla, you did not pay attention to that part.
It's
That's
like
literally one of
4
the biggest
hours
parts.
long.
It's 3 hours long. Anyway.
I'll watch it when it's in high def, because watching it on a grainy little screen.
Well, the son aimed his pistol at the sky and started shooting the other person, and he dies. Alexander Hamilton did the same thing. He was like, Aaron Burr don't got it in it. He don't got it in him. Like he's not gonna
Yeah.
shoot. Aims his pistol at the sky instead of at Aaron Burr. Boom, dead. Done.
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Deceased.
Duel, bro!
Can you insert? No, you can't. But I was gonna say insert the meme of like the casket dudes, like the dancing casket dudes,
I'm gonna.
like with the thing on their shoulder.
Yeah, I'll take the stream down and then I'll re-edit it just to add the meme.
Just
here.
like put it right here.
Oh, I could make that the thumbnail.
No, that's not what the whole hour was about. Anyway.
Continue what you were saying.
No, that was it. Like, don't do that. It didn't end well for his son or for him.
See, this is why we all need to pay attention to history.
So it doesn't repeat itself. Be smart.
But I'm still like super intrigued as to like how many networks were interested in that Disney ended up with it. That's really crazy.
I'd have to look it up to tell you like the specific ones, but it was like all the major ones that you can probably think of.
But also the impact of Hamilton is
Yeah.
where we were carrying this conversation. It's also kind of brought
Ooh.
light to the fact that there's not like any other. I mean, first of all, it was a rap musical, right? And Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote it specifically to be performed by
People of color.
people of color.
100%. Yeah. And I mean, the roles are written that way, although he's like switched some roles out, but it's usually most of them, because there are like ensemble roles that he's opened up for like whoever.
King George is
like the
supposed to be
only
a white guy.
yeah, the
because
only
he's-
defined white guy.
And he mentioned, I did watch the PBS thingy about how like the music was written for the characters as well. So King George sings like a very like a very like it's not an opera, but it's a very like melodic
professional,
composition.
Like,
It's
I don't know how
supposed
to
it's
describe
it's he said something about he was trying to like
voice maybe?
no, he was trying to contrast like traditional Broadway.
Well, yeah.
And
Because he wanted something to appeal to all audiences, ultimately. And so, well, the reason he wrote King George that way is because he's supposed to be, like, high and mighty from Britain and, like, the fanciest, which is, like, he has, like, the fanciest singing, even though he only has 6 minutes of stage time in the whole musical. Because all of his songs are, like, 3 minutes long, and he's in 3 of them. But, it was largely, even though they're portraying characters who are mostly white, even though now it's come out that Hamilton was actually not like white, which is something we don't learn in schools. He wrote this to be portrayed by people of color to change the way it's viewed.
yeah, and in theater that's huge because as we've seen in award shows time and time again, the awards are usually given to
The whites.
white people, but not because like they're being compared against non-white actors, but because there's not non-white actors.
Yeah, there's very little opportunities for actual like people of color on Broadway and in theater as a whole. Like there's obviously roles that are not defined like, oh, this has to be a white person that plays it, but it's super rare for a person of color to get cast in them. Like just last year, was it? I don't know, I should have looked up the date before, but there was the first Black Elsa in Frozen on Broadway.
That's
And so it's like it's very hard for people of color to get roles on Broadway if they aren't specifically written for them.
And that's what Hamilton has kind of been attributed with, the fact that it was a play written about primarily white people, but it aimed to cast people of color.
And I remember people were mad about
and
it.
people were mad about it.
When the casting call said, like, specifically people of color, they were
But-
like, what about the white roles? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, there's so many roles available for everybody else. But it's hopefully a changing scene. But I still think there's like a big lack of roles for people of color in theater.
But that's what I was gonna say. The Hamilton kind of sparked because, like you said, now we've had a Black Elsa, and that's something that I personally do celebrate Hamilton for, because you mentioned this before too, that there should be roles written specifically for people of color. But if you think about this from a grand, like, take a step back from the issue, right? Grand scheme of things, right? You write roles for people of color. Great, now there are more people of color in the industry. However, you're giving anyone that opposes that the chance to say, well, don't be mad when you don't get cast for a general role, go act in your stuff, right? Because
people would so easily do that.
It's not like that's wrong or right, but that's somewhere where that conversation could be carried. And unfortunately, as the people that try to push for a more diverse, I guess, casting list, maybe casting call, is implemented. What am I saying? The more that's implemented, the more that's going to be met with backlash from people that don't want that. Not to say that they're the loudest voice or the most important voice by any means, but you know that that's going to happen. And if you want to change people's minds, if you want to change the industry, what Frozen did by hiring a Black Elsa, like, that role is not written for anyone specifically. And I think Hamilton opened the door for that because it's showing, like, all right, people of color can play white characters the same way that for ages white people have played roles that are supposedly people of color. Like, the one I think about a lot is Scarlett Johansson, who was in a character who was supposed to be Asian, and Scarlett Johansson is very much not. Like, sometimes it's specified, but even then the role goes to somebody else. So from my point of view, I feel like instead of specifying,
just open up all the roles.
Instead of specifying a role, let anyone play anyone.
I don't know.
It's acting, bro.
I think there should be a balance of both, because I would like to obviously see more roles written specifically for Hispanic women,
because that's you.
Well, yeah, and then but also for other roles, because then if you write these cultural roles and put it into the show and accurately portray these cultural roles, then people are likely to go see it and see what people are actually genuinely,
right?
Because there's so many other shows where they portray people of color in a stereotypical way.
People want to see themselves represented properly, but at the same time, how are you going to control whether or not that portrayal is done properly, right? Because you're either going to have it be where Latinos should write for Latinos, Black people should write for Black people, Asians should write for Asians, which, again, it's kind of it's going to lead to typecasting, and it's going to lead to pigeonholing
not necessarily
characters and actors in a specific type of thing, because that would be good whenever it's things that are realistic, right? Like a girl next door who is Hispanic, that should be a Hispanic playing that role, right? But what are you going to do whenever this extends to roles that aren't anything, like someone voice acting for an animated movie and the character's not even a person?
Well, okay, so that's where it gets complicated too, because even with voice acting, you saw, what was it, Family Guy that had a white guy voice acting?
No, it was Big Mouth. Big Mouth. That was one of Jenny Slate was playing a half Black, half Jewish character because she's half Jewish. Or she's
that's another
Jewish
one, yeah.
Something.
But Family Guy did it too. I forgot his name. I don't know his name. Yeah. But anyways, they had basically white characters playing Black roles, voice acting. So it's voice acting, so it's hard to see, be able to tell. But they started stepping down from their positions because of this movement and saying, all right, I'm gonna step back. I'm not gonna do this. Cleveland Brown. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah, that's Austin, by the way. So
Austin.
Yeah. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so a lot of people were coming out and they were like, man, we just wanted equal rights, we didn't want this. But then there were a lot of people that were like, yeah, they shouldn't have been casted in this to begin with.
Yeah, so that's an example. So, and with voice acting, that's where I actually differ from the norm, I guess, because like you said, you can't tell because it's just a voice actor. But if you're depicting a character as being a certain race, you towing the line between what a stereotypical Black, Asian, Hispanic, white character sounds like pushes that stereotype, right? Like, how many people of color aren't told, oh, you sound white whenever they don't speak with their stereotypical accent?
Me! I freaking hate when people say that. Oh, that's like my biggest pet peeve when they're like, oh my god, you sound white.
So that's why like the push for diversity is like it's super tricky because while creating a space for yourself, you have to also ensure that you're not restricting yourself in that role. Eamon said the power dynamic isn't the same when white people have played people of color in theater for centuries. People of color can play roles made for white people, but white people won't miss an opportunity by not playing a person of color. Right. And so opening that up right now, because there are so many white actors in white roles, opening that up would benefit more people of color than vice versa, because it would literally open up more spaces for people of color than those that would be open to white people.
That's why I said, like, the way I see it, there has to be a good balance.
Yeah.
Like, they have to open up some of those roles to people of color, but also roles have to be written specifically for people of color that portray them in an accurate and authentic way. I think it's very important. Like, if you think about, like, Hispanics, like, for us, like, if we were acting, what roles do we have? We got In the Heights, maybe West Side Story. That's all I can think of.
So the reason I disagree is because of the treatment of Hispanic characters specifically. So I guess we can speak to that because that is what we are. But if what's the show, Jane the Virgin? Stereotypical Hispanic family that has a child, and then that's a huge family, and there's a bunch of drama. It's like novella adjacent. Like, to me, it's annoying just because we've seen it before, right? And I mean, even things that are true and they're funny, like anything George Lopez has done or been in, right? Like, it's funny.
George Lopez just because
No, I'm gonna say it's funny and it's true, but like we've seen it before, right? And so writing roles for I guess specific people is just gonna look like what we've seen before. Innovation, I guess, would be like having Miles Morales, like
yes, Afro-Latino representation, please.
And it's not about him being Afro-Latino.
No,
he's just a character that happens to be.
That's a good way to do it.
It was written for him. It was written for a character named Miles Morales who was Afro-Latino. So that casting opens the door for someone who's Afro-Latino.
Just opened a whole other book.
I know, that's why I mentioned, because like that's one where I think we find middle ground. Yeah, that's an example of writing a character for a specific type of person without making it about it, because it doesn't lead the story. It's not like, hey guys, guess what? My name is Miles and I am Afro-Latino. It's just it's a part of who he is, but it doesn't dominate his personality.
And I love the way they do that with like his mom too, because like his mom has like some like portions where she speaks in Spanish and there's no subtitles. They put no subtitles in the movie theater. It just exists. Yeah, that's just how it is, and I love that. Like, yeah, people don't know what she's saying, but it's just like basic little like, hey, have a good day.
Because it's like, just in passing. It's a part of who she is. It's not. It's not her. It's not her defining point, right? Austin said Coco is a good example of strong, well-represented cultural depiction, I believe, at least. And it is. Coco was really carefully done, and they aimed to make a movie that was respectful. But
so every time I see a depiction of Hispanic culture that aims to do it accurately, they always choose Day of the Dead. Every time. Like, what's the other Book of Life?
Book of Life.
A great movie too, but it's also about Day of the Dead. So I love Coco.
And I love Day of the Dead.
And we love that, but I'm just tired of seeing, like, our culture is more than just Day of the Dead.
That's why I think that it has to be included, but it doesn't have to be defined by it. Like, I will sit here and I will watch any movie you make about Day of the Dead, whether it's good or bad, just because
she made one.
I like it.
She made a whole.
Well, I did make a movie. I did a school project and I did it about Day of the Dead because I know about Day of the Dead, and I was like, let me show you how it's done. But like,
yeah, because back then Coco wasn't out yet.
No, this was before Book of Life too. You did it they are making a video game about Miles. I'm so hyped.
No freaking way.
I would say to play it, but I'll probably end up watching it. Yeah, there was another one that I was thinking of, but it was kind of along the lines of Miles Morales, where it's just like it's written and like it just happens to be this character, right? Or even and that one, I guess you can make the argument that it's about a superhero, so his defining characteristic is being a superhero, and it doesn't matter, like, I guess, who's behind the mask as long as somebody is, but even that's received backlash.
The whole point of the movie is that anybody can be behind the mask. That's literally like Stan Lee's whole cameo in that movie, where he's literally saying that anybody can wear the mask. And
Yeah.
I thought that was a really important thing for its time,
And
for
they
it to be
actually
portrayed right
mentioned
there.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
They outright said it, because I know that I've seen the argument about Batman before, but more so in the terms.
Sidebar, could we just talk about Robert Pattinson being the new Batman real quick? Ew. Anyways, continue. I know a lot of people who like the idea. Sorry, I just have
Robert
to,
Pattinson's grown on me. He's just such a weird, strange little person.
But you just watched all of Twilight.
That wasn't my decision. But as Batman, I don't like him. I guess I'll see.
Yeah, we'll have to see. But anyway, sorry, continue. I just had to sidebar real quick. You were talking about Miles Morales and like.
No, I was
happening
gonna
to be,
mention
like,
about the Day of the Dead thing.
Right.
About not being defined by your culture and not being defined by like who's playing you.
Right.
That's, I think, one of the most significant things to consider, especially as, you know, people who are considered minorities trying to break their way into the industry and make that change for yourself.
Yeah.
To make that space, you can't let it be your only thing, right? Because
like it's part of your identity for sure. But it's not like the only aspect of you. Like,
yeah.
I feel like I have so much more to give than just being Hispanic.
Right.
Like, I don't want to be Hispanic person number 5.
Because that's what people see you at face value, and so what you're trying to do is not be typecast, right? Show that you're more. Oh, Spy Kids is the example I was looking for. Sorry, I just remembered. Spy Kids wasn't written like. When you watch Spy Kids, I don't think you immediately notice that it's mostly a Latin cast, do you? Mm-hmm. I didn't notice this until the internet pointed it out. No, Machete's
when Machete makes his appearance, it's over. That's when you know.
But like, I didn't notice this until the internet pointed it out, like maybe 3 years ago.
It was just like another cool movie.
It's just a movie that you watch and it's cool and it's exciting. But it's not dominated by the fact that they're Hispanic actors or characters, but they all just kind of happen to be Hispanic. At least that's how it seems to the viewer. I don't know how that movie was cast. I don't know how it was directed. I don't know anything about it other than it's cool and Machete and George Lopez are in it, and Antonio Banderas and Salma Hayek and a bunch of other Spanish actors. But like, that's another example, I think, of a movie that you can watch and it's given such cool opportunities to, I guess, minorities.
Yeah.
But without it being dominated by the fact that they are minorities. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think it's important for both.
Arturo had said, to be fair, Book of Life was first and the director was Mexican. I loved Book of Life.
No, yeah, don't get me wrong, I love it. It's a great movie.
Tumblr likes to discuss things. I remember seeing on Tumblr that they were mad that there were white voice actors, but I'm like, I'm Mexican and I literally don't care.
I didn't even know. I haven't looked into it.
Like, it's not the biggest deal, though.
Yeah.
Like, and maybe it's just because it's Day of the Dead, but like, I just, there's bigger issues, right? Like, there's people that are dying.
I pick my battles. Like, yeah, it would be nice to have them be Hispanic actors. But at the same time, I'm just like, well, there's more important things.
I'm not going to go and cancel them for acting in it either. Like, I'm glad that your life is working so well.
They just wanted to get their money and get paid.
That just motivates me more to make that space in the industry for myself. The casting director, you had a thing that you wanted to read.
Okay, let me try to find it.
That it's more so than just the cast, but it's the people behind the scenes that actually have way more input into how
they're the ones that
movies are represented. Austin said Luke Cage's superhero whose defining feature is being black and in Brooklyn, and that kind of
didn't you?
Yeah, and I was gonna say that does like play a lot into who he is and why he does the things he does. So like, he is guided by his history.
That's why I think that it's like important to have both.
By his identity, yeah.
Like, have people who happen to be of this, but then also have stuff that's like culturally accurate and like representative.
But Luke Cage, like, that is the hero of Luke Cage. Like,
it's like his whole.
Yeah, and so like, it's not like making Peter Parker anything else other than who Peter Parker is, but it's about making that space for other characters to fit that role. So like, there's some that are specifics, like Luke Cage is an example, right? Or like Daredevil is blind. Like, you can't change the story and make him deaf all of a sudden or make him be in a wheelchair just because he has a disability. Like, there's some characters that like, they are defined by
who they are,
by their identities and by their shortcomings and by their successes and by their luck in life. But there's other characters that I think just, it can't be specifically like, it can't always be specifically about something, right? Because at the end of the day, like, you're going to interact with others who only see you for what you look like or for what you sound like, but then there's also the interactions that you have based on whether like you're a good or a bad person.
Yeah. Oh, and I hate that. Like, as a personal experience, like, seeing how, like, when I first went to early college, and everybody thought I was white, right? Nobody knew until I tell, like, people normally, because they assume that all Mexicans are a certain skin tone, and so, they never knew.
They refers to the kids at early college because in our
White
county,
kids.
so early college pulls kids from different districts, and early college is mostly white. And Charlotte and I
Yeah.
came from a school where 80
There was no black people in my grade. None.
in early college.
Yeah.
Before that, in our city district, we went to a school that was 80% non-white. So 20% of the
Black
kids
and
were
Hispanic.
white. Everyone else was everything else.
Talk about a
basically.
culture shock. I was like,
So-
I don't belong here
Yeah,
at
and
this
so
early college.
I think that's also why you were so shook by going to high school and everyone
I was
assuming
like,
that
where's
you were
my
white.
people? Like, huh? And well, yeah. So like nobody knew I was Hispanic until I told them like, oh yeah, I'm from Mexico. Like I'm Mexican, whatever. And seeing how differently they treated me once having that knowledge was heartbreaking. Like, because they treated me just like everybody else when they thought I was white. But as soon as they found out I was Mexican, they switched up on me. Like, it wasn't even like a, oh, I'm gonna try to get away from her, like, little by little. It was like, skirt, like, I don't want to talk to her. Like, who's this? She's Mexican, huh? Like, that's the type of, like, they grew up with families who
Yeah.
embedded this into their heads and watching shows that badly stereotyped Hispanic
Which is
people and
why
Mexicans.
it
So,
goes
like,
deeper than the roles.
Yeah.
It extends to
okay, I found the thing. So, actor in Hamilton shared this. Desmond Newson, he was like actor in there.
Alexa Vega and Spike is really good.
Oh yeah. Oh, actually, well, okay, we'll go back because that's going back to Spike. So
it's not done with that conversation.
yeah. So he shared this thing that somebody put on Facebook, and I thought it was like really important to read out because it had to do with this. So it says, attention. Diversity in theater is not presenting a production of Dreamgirls or In the Heights, even though I would love to see In the Heights. Please, freaking, I want to be Nina anyways. And hiring a director of color. Diversity in theater is seriously considering and yes, hiring people of color for creative, design, and crew positions of all shows. The practice of relegating people of color to ethnic shows and allowing their white counterparts to have free reign over the entire musical theater catalog needs to end. If a white director can create a Tony Award-winning production of Color Purple, then a director of color is equally as capable of creating an award-winning production of The Sound of Music. Same thing applies to sound, lights, sets, costumes, stage manager, etc. There are qualified people of color in every area of theater. Hire them for their skill, not just their color. And I was like, that's exactly like the point that I was trying to make. Like this just showed up on my Instagram today, and I was like, perfect. Like, I can't. Sorry. That was all. Like this just like made the point.
No,
like,
you read it, so now
it put it to words better than I could, but basically it goes beyond just like the actors on the stage. There has to be people of color hired in theater in general. Like
it's the people that work in
yeah,
on the
because
production
oftentimes they're the ones who have like a huge influence on how the show goes. So because as actors we get like a set of lines and we have to read them and perform them.
Hi, Theo.
And interpret them. Theo, my love.
We were actually arguing before this came on about the lighting because Charlotte was sitting on the other side. But
I was like, I don't like the lighting on my face.
But backstage, that's something that's taken into consideration. How many movies have you not seen where people who are of a lighter skin tone either
Yes.
washed out or people who are of a darker skin tone are just like faded into the shadows?
And we learned about this in my TV production class and how a person of like a lighter complexion is lighted way differently than a person of color. And we had the test because we had one black person in our class and we had them sit in a chair and we had another person sit in a chair and see how differently the lighting affected them, and it matters. And it's stuff that white people don't think about a lot of times.
And it's not even just that either, because like you can think about it in terms of cosmetics and stylization. So like the colors people are wearing, like their hair color, like their makeup, like the way things match, but also just the way that somebody is. Like something as simple as like the shade of your skin that you can't change, whether someone's got a tan or someone's naturally born with a darker skin color, or someone's like born completely like I read a thing about how albinos actors have like also like this the exact opposite problem basically, right? And so, but the fact that there was this written about albino actors. How many people are affected by albinism? Is that how it's pronounced? I don't know. How many Black actors, however, are in the industry, and this isn't something that's like taught like
Yeah.
from the moment you start going into
Shout out
it.
to Carlson, man, for teaching it in our class.
Yeah.
Because it's I hadn't even thought about that, and I was like, dang, I need to check myself. Like, I'm here checking other people. I need to check myself first too, because that's something that didn't even cross my mind.
Yeah, and this is something that I've noticed mostly in like internet things, right? YouTube and like DIY type shows, things that are done by just like amateurs who've become professionals just because they wanted to do it. And if that's a problem, like between a bunch of kids that are recording in their room, how is that also a problem for people who are getting paid millions of dollars to do it on stage for feature films, etc., right? And it's so dumb too, because you see it mostly in movies where they have like their one token black character.
Yeah, like the token black friend.
Right,
Like
exactly. Or like
throwaway role or something.
you see it a lot also with like Middle Eastern and indigenous characters as well, because since they're darker than white people but they're
like
lighter than black people,
when they write like the problems.
No, but I'm saying like people who are even people who are in between, right? People who present like you see them and you're just thinking, oh, they're light skinned, but like people who are still darker than white people, lighter than black people, the lighting on them, they often look like ashy and like faded because they don't account for like the typical like warm undertones that their skin has, because undertones also matter.
And you're big into that.
Yeah, undertones matter, and so like white people usually have cool undertones, so that's why like pale people will often have like pinker appearances and darker people will have more yellow, like more golden tones, and that's also something that isn't accounted for. And so like whenever you see lighting on somebody, it's not just can you see them, but it's is it making them look good, because bad lighting will make someone look sickly, will make them look pale, will make them look like disheveled, like no, like I was gonna say it in Spanish, but like they're not like
say it, maybe I can translate.
Like que no están arreglados. Like it makes them look like they weren't
messy, basically.
Yeah, it makes them look like they
up.
weren't like styled for that shoot, and it makes them look subpar to other actors and other characters.
Even if in person they look great.
Right.
And that's something that he pushed for. He was like, you have to refocus, and every time you have a person of a different complexion in front of the camera, refocus, rechange the lighting. And it's tedious, but it must be done. It's something you have to think ahead of.
During Brother Size, we had specific lighting design because the character was darker overall in complexion. That was specifically pointed out by our director. As a black actor, I've been washed out by lighting in many pictures for many shows because lighting design didn't account for my tone. Right, and see, that's Deron Williams, for those of y'all who don't go to the school. Deron Williams is black. He's a black man, right?
The only theater professor.
And so that's the importance of having somebody that knows to look out for that in charge backstage. It's not about writing the roles for people. It's not about representation on screen. You also need people to account for that.
Not just about, because it is
behind the scenes. Yeah.
It has to be like all of it. Like they have to be hiring more people of color in every aspect.
Like it goes deeper than people fight for it to do. And
because the typical person just fights for representation on stage, but
you have to think so much farther ahead, and of course that's daunting, because like why does it fall onto minorities to fight for their own rights when there's the people in charge who are like deliberately turning a blind eye to it when they have the power to make it better for everyone, right?
Exactly. And that's something that's come up at this school specifically a lot, that it's always the minorities having to fight for it. But how many white professors do we have that could be fighting for it? And that should have started the conversation before even hiring the first black theater professor. Because the only person that's producing plays at Eastern with characters of color is Deron Williams.
That's for specific reasons.
Yeah, like specifically for, like, obviously people of color get cast in different roles because they need to be.
Because they're people that go to the school and are good actors.
Exactly. But, like, that's why, like, I was pushing for In the Heights, and I was trying to convince Deron. I was like, please still do the musical, do In the Heights. Like, we have the Hispanic population. There's enough Hispanic kids in theater. Or, like, Hispanic passing, unfortunately, because it's a white school. But there's, like, enough people of color to do In the Heights. And he was just like, oh, yeah, we'll take it up to the board. And then he decided not to do the musical. So there go my chances. And now we're going to do an all-white freaking opera. But anyway, that's another thing I'm mad about.
Another opera? We just had an opera.
Well, Lulu was technically not like
Lulu
the school. It was Bob McGrath's
wasn't
creation.
performed on
Yeah.
on school grounds.
But anyway, I'm kind of upset about that. But that's
Basically-
just me.
Basically, there's more to consider
Yeah, there's a
than
lot more to
there
take into
is to be
consideration.
taken from an issue at face value. Is my my biggest takeaway and my biggest point to make.
I agree. Yes, ma'am. Like you wrapped it up really well. I didn't know what to say.
Yeah, I wanted you to get the chance to read that post that you'd found because
Yeah.
you'd been talking about that, and we'd been discussing it as well because
Well, we've been going back and forth about it. 'cause,
we
like,
differ on our
yeah.
approach to it, but like the fact of the matter is like,
It all comes down to the same issue.
and the same issue being that
More representation is needed in all aspects of not even just theater. Like obviously,
not even
we're-
representation, just more opportunities, more spaces, more of like, because it's not like you're doing someone the favor of letting them represent their people. Like, bro, they're a person just the same as you. Like, it's not like you're doing them a favor. You're not
You're just
doing
letting them be.
You're not doing them a disservice because who are you to let somebody?
That's what I was gonna say. Let me check myself real quick because it's not even letting them. Because I don't need nobody's permission to exist as I
Like
am.
no one's sitting here saying you are allowed to be an actor. Like
Yeah.
if you want to be an actor, that's your career path to pursue. So it's
Right.
not about seeking representation. It's about seeking that opportunity. And for the people that are hiring, it's not a, like I said, it's about not doing someone a disservice rather than doing someone a favor.
Yeah.
I was trying to read what Eamon said. Yeah, it was just agreeing. But that's the heavy topics for today. And that's something that Charlotte's been wanting to talk about on the show for a while. But
Yes,
school got
ma'am.
canceled.
No, I was supposed to be
now
a
we're here.
guest at school.
Charlotte was supposed. I mentioned this on the last episode we had. Charlotte was supposed to be the guest. We had spring break week.
The week it got sent back. Everything happened the week. Like I had so many things planned that freaking week. Anyway,
Life goes on.
Life goes
I've literally
on.
been just working on getting those episodes up and out since school ended. That's all I've been doing.
podcast life. Podcast with a
life.
K. Almost one too many Ks for my liking, but we will talk about it.
Excuse you. And now we're streamers. Oh my god.
I know. You have a whole YouTube now. It's crazy.
If the stream that the radio station has set up still isn't like fully functioning every week, I think I'm going to continue the stream because people always ask why is there no video feed.
Yeah.
So even if you can't like, I guess watch
You can
it,
do both.
I'm just going to stream it, and that way you
Yeah.
can choose whether you listen to it on the fancy microphones of the radio station or whether you watch it through my webcam so that you can see us hanging out in the studio.
That'd be cool. People will just see me like going like this in the chair the whole time.
I'm gonna have to figure out the angles because I really thought I had the dual camera thing set up, but I might just have to give in and get like actual equipment.
It was a good attempt though.
It was working
It was working
until
before
I
you
switched.
started, yeah.
Well, I had the preview screen up and it was working until I switched to the live screen. But oh well, I'll
It
keep messing with
happens.
that. I guess I will have to do
Sorry
test
for the
streams.
technical difficulties at the beginning.
If you see me going live when it's not Sunday at 11, feel free to hang out while I test this camera setup.
I'll probably do the test.
So you can just, I guess, pretend you're on a Zoom call with no camera enabled and you're just in the chat. Put out new videos every Sunday at 11 p.m. Well, that's when they go live. I don't know when they get published. But, yeah, I think that's what I'll do. Theo, I'm still waiting for you to decide to be a guest on the show.
I'm waiting on that too because I feel like Theo would have a lot of great things to say. Hints. Jackie too, but she playing games.
Jackie keeps saying she'll do the show, but then Jackie
never
doesn't
does.
do the show. She had been working because she was OA,
Yeah.
something. But that's the show for tonight. Anything else you'd like to say? Closing remarks, statements, etc.
Watch Hamilton on Disney Plus, July 3rd, midnight Pacific Standard Time, so that's 3 a.m. Eastern Time. Y'all should stay up, watch it with me. We can hit play all at the same time and have a grand old time. I promise it's worth your time.
Yeah, that's why you should do Quarantine with a K. There's no censorship here because it's just me sitting in my house doing YouTube live stream.
With a shrine of me in the background right over there. That's me in my 2 graduations.
Y'all could do Quarantine with a K if you want, amen. Quarantine with a K is open to
Amen would
anyone
be like,
as a
I
guest.
feel like Amen would be a really good guest, to be honest.
I mean,
You need more Aries energy in your life.
That's exactly what I want. I want y'all to not shut up for an hour, mostly. After that, I don't
If
care
I
what
can
y'all
do
do.
it,
But for an hour,
I know
I need
Amen
y'all
got
to
some
talk.
things to say. I know she does.
Amen be having thoughts.
THOTs and THOUGT.
How did you spell that?
THOUGHTS. No, I said it right. Skirt.
Alright, well, if that's all we have for today, and that's all you had to say, then
that's not talking.
That is that.
Today.
It's the year of Aries? Is it?
I don't know, but it should be. I don't even follow this. Why am I playing into it? I'm always like, man, that's mumbo jumbo.
What's the animal for 2020? I actually don't know that.
I don't know, but I'm like the year of the bunny or something.
Yeah,
like
but
something cute.
Amen. Charlotte said you'd be having THOTS.
I said both.
Both.
Both of them.
Both.
She can have thoughts.
Alright, well.
Anyway, sorry. But do your outro. I'm like distracting.
Follow the podcast on Twitter, link in bio, PODKASTXK. Keep an eye out for when this show is ever actually. Keep an eye out for Selena, and keep an eye out for when this show is available on audio streaming platforms, because that's been my current project. Follow Charlotte on things.
At Pretty Chill Char on Instagram and Twitter.
On everything.
I'm Pretty Chill Char on everything. Everybody watching already has me. Alright. People who watch in the future follow me.
Yeah, I think that's that.
Yeah.
Any questions, any comments, leave them here or leave them on Twitter. And I'll see you guys next week. Same time, same channel. New nonsense, new guest. And maybe the new setup, I don't know. Actually, no new setup because I'm still doing internet guests.
So either be here or being bad.
Or fake green screen. So we have 3 setups, but
podcast with a K on everything.
Yes, just look up podcast with a K and it'll pop up. Yeah, keep your Sundays at 11 clear, because this is the new thing, whether I'm at the radio station or here in my house. The year of the rat. I vote for Theo for Animal of 2020.
Makes sense.
They say you look like me, so anyway, bye.